What's up, everybody? How we doing? Sorry for the little bit of a delay, but welcome back to another weekly live stream here on Celtics Digest. Don't know why I am not there. There we go. Welcome back to another episode here on Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Veliz, and in today's episode, we're going to be going over this Boston Celtics team. We did not obviously get to see much activity this past week as it was All-Star week, but there was some news with the Boston Celtics, and one big news piece came out today with the Celtics as an ex-Boston Celtic was once again picked up by the ex-GM of the Boston Celtics in Danny Ainge. So we're going to get into all of that and more on this weekly live stream here. Like I mentioned, there wasn't much for the Boston Celtics this week, so should not be a lengthy stream for today unless you guys have a bunch of questions revolving around this team. But we will see the Celtics come back in tomorrow's contest as they take on the Philadelphia 76ers on the road. Only one game on tonight. Kind of funny that it is the Hornets and the Lakers, the two teams that did not have a trade to go through this season. But let's dive in and let's discuss this Celtics team. Like I mentioned, if you have any thoughts, any questions, let us know down below in the comment section. But before we get into the Celtics and the moves that were kind of revolving around this team, even if the Celtics didn't make any moves directly, we're going to be discussing and looking at the game from last week. As I mentioned that there was a game that the Celtics were playing before the All-Star break, and that was the game versus the San Antonio Spurs, and it was a good one for the Boston Celtics as they were able to come up victorious in that one. And to go into the All-Star break on a good win is what you love to see. And we saw the Celtics take care of that in that game versus the San Antonio Spurs, like I mentioned. Trying to get it pulled up here for you guys if we want to. Think it's this one, right? Where is it? No. Oh, okay. It is supposed to be that one. So I don't know what's going on. Here we go. There we are. You found me. Now I disappeared, but I'm back. There we go. Awesome. We're back. And we're locked. And we're loaded. But like I mentioned, Celtics got a big dub versus the San Antonio Spurs before the All-Star break. 116 to 103. And as we saw, Celtics came out on fire in the first quarter, 37 to 19 with the lead. Spurs kind of crawled back, had a good third quarter where they had some good runs, but then the Celtics were able to finish it out and get this game wrapped up. I believe the Spurs in this game had some times where they were, between 8 or 9 points where it was getting a little scary. We obviously saw De'Aaron Fox, who had previously played in that game with the Sacramento Kings, which they dominated versus in that fourth quarter comeback versus the Celtics when he was there. Now versus with the Spurs, 23 points, a pretty solid game. Stephon Castle had 20 points. Victor Wembanyama had 17 and 13. He was all over the glass. But for the Celtics in this game, we saw some big performances as Jayson Tatum took over 32, 14, and 7, just playing like an absolute beast. Al Horford had 10 rebounds. Derrick White versus former team had 19 points. Kristaps Porziņģis was just absolute beasting and feasting, and he's been getting a little bit of that range back with that three-point shot coming back from injury as the Latvian laser has been very effective. I remember Luke Cornett was very solid, and yes, Torrey Craig made his debut where he shot 100% from the field for the Boston Celtics in this contest. But we want to dive in and look at some more stuff revolving around this Celtics team. We did see some stuff come out today where once again the ex-Boston Celtics general manager Danny Ainge signed an ex-Boston Celtic. That's right. Free agent guard Jaden Springer has agreed to a 10-day contract with the Utah Jazz, as his agent Chad Speck told ESPN. Springer played in 26 games for the Celtics this season. And you might be asking me, Bruce, well, how is this again? I don't remember another player that played for the Utah Jazz that plays for the Celtics. Well, you might be forgetting about Svi Mykhailiuk, as Svi was on this Celtics team last season. He was a utility bench guy, was on the edges. In that Indiana Pacers game that I saw, was able to kind of catch some life early on in the season, which was nice to see. But ultimately, for the Boston Celtics, they did lose Fima Hyluk, and they traded away Jaden Springer as well. Now, they brought back in Torrey Craig. They felt Craig could add some help offensively and defensively at the wing position with Hauser dealing with some injuries. And it makes sense. Springer didn't really have much of a rotation or a role with this team. And even though he did show some lives in that Western Conference road trip, the Celtics felt by trading away Springer and getting a little bit cheaper on that luxury tax bill was more helpful for them now and for the future. But for Springer, going to Utah, he will now be going with his ex-teammate in Sima Heilig, excuse me, and Springer provides a lot on the defensive side of the floor. And for the Utah Jazz, a team that doesn't really have a lot of good defensive guards in their rotation, as guys like Isaiah Collier and Keontae George are more offensive based. Colin Sexton all right defensively, but a little bit grimy, but more offensive based as well. They have a lot of players, Jordan Clarkson as well. They don't have a lot of defensive guards or a main defensive guard. So a guy like Jaden Springer can come in on that 10-day contract, and especially on a Utah Jazz team, one that's towards the bottom of the Western Conference, could really show out and really perform for them, in my opinion, at a high level performance. I would love to see personally a guy like Jaden Springer be able to perform as well on this Utah Jazz team. And I think it's nice that Danny Ainge is kind of looking at some of these ex-Boston Celtics prospects as a guy who was the general manager of the Boston Celtics and saying, you know what? I'm going to invest in you, because if Brad Stevens invested in you and he trusted in you, then I know that it traded for you and a guy like Jaden Springer, then I know that you could be potentially worth something from my team as well. And I think that Jaden Springer is going to be able to bring a lot for this Celtics, or for this Utah Jazz team, like I mentioned, as point of attack defender, one of those guys who, in a Utah Jazz season where you might see some of their older veteran guys like John Collins, Lauri Markkanen, Jordan Clarkson, for example, kind of sit out and rest towards the end of the season. I would definitely expect a player like Jaden Springer to get more time in when those guys are sitting out, and could potentially find himself a rotational spot or rotational piece for this Utah Jazz team in the future, or could then leapfrog off of this season by going to another team next year and getting a long-term deal. I've mentioned with Jaden Springer that he's a guy that I think could develop with the offensive type of pieces to be a quality role player. And we saw this similarly with the Celtics a few years back with Aaron Nesmith. And if you guys don't remember, with Nesmith, he was a guy that was one of the best shooters in the NBA draft, him and Desmond Bane, which the Celtics ironically did draft and traded to the Grizzlies for that lottery pick when they did that draft swap. But they both took the best shooters. Now, Nesmith obviously hasn't been as consistent as a shooter as Bane has been in the NBA, but Nesmith with Boston didn't get that much run with Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown also being the other top tier wings that needed playing time. And once he went to Indiana, he absolutely blossomed, and he has his revenge games versus the Boston Celtics where he absolutely goes off versus this team. So I would not be shocked if a player like Jaden Springer kind of sees that developmental path as Aaron Nesmith does. Nesmith, once he got to Indiana, as they were still rebuilding before Tyrese Halliburton, were still allowing some of their players to grow and get that offensive shot selection that they needed, and the time to develop that offensive game. And we've seen with Springer, like I said, in that Western Conference road trip where he's been able to hit these threes for the Celtics. Maybe not as consistent as you like, but in spurts where he could be useful. And I think for a team like Utah, this is a perfect piece to kind of invest in and to kind of look at. We want to look at Utah's roster real quick. I can pull that up so that we can spot track. What team am I looking up? Jazz roster. The Utah Jazz roster. If I hit this real quick, pull this up. So, like I mentioned, we got Markkanen, Collins, Sexton, Clarkson. They got Kenyon Martin Jr. When did they get Kenyon Martin Jr.? I don't remember when they. I did not know they had Kenyon Martin Jr. Okay. Taylor Hendricks, he's out for the year. Cody Williams, Keontae George, Fee, Juzang, Filipowski, Kessler. Okay. So, like I was saying earlier, I think this is a team definitely to keep an eye on. Now, they don't have on here they don't have them with Springer on Spot Track, but if we look at position wise, now Spot Track could be a little bit wanky with this, but they're saying four guards, which Springer would consider himself being. They have Sexton, Clarkson, Cody Williams, Keontae George, Svi, Johnny Juzang, Isaiah Collier, and Elijah Harkless. Now, I don't know who Elijah Harkless is, but Sexton, Clarkson, I will expect towards the end of the season with the Utah Jazz being towards the bottom of the Western Conference to not be playing and to be tradable assets for this team in the future. So I do believe like a guy like Springer, where if you look at this roster, I mean, Juzang's pretty solid on the defensive side, but most of these guys are offensive creators and just bucket getters and scorers and guys who can kind of create their own shot and kind of go out there. Springer brings a different type of element for this Utah Jazz team, which is just, kind of a bunch of young guys that are just like, here, take the ball, you go out, score, kind of see what you can do for them. Just go out, take the ball, do whatever you can. Just try to generate some offense. Try to just create something for us. You know what I mean? And ultimately, with Springer, he's the opposite of that. You bring him in the game to be like, go out and stop this guy that's going off on us. And we've seen with the Celtics can be able to do that. So I would have really liked to see it. Got one from GQ Mike here. Should have traded him in 2 first-round picks if Utah really wanted him. Well, obviously that would have been the case, but I don't think the Celtics would have traded 2 first-round picks with Springer for Walker Kessler. I know Walker was a top trade target for a lot of fans, but I don't necessarily know if he was even on the market. What I kind of think with Walker Kessler is he's a type of player that a lot of people see on a Utah Jazz team that's obviously towards the bottom of the Western Conference and has other bigs in Collins, Filipowski, and the potential to get Cooper Flag. And they say, hey, they're going to trade Walker Kessler, but I don't think Utah wants to trade him at all. And I think they want to keep him. Danny Ainge isn't scared of wacky roster construction and saving it at a later date. Danny Ainge wants the best possible young talent and the best possible pieces on this team to invest, and Walker Kessler is one of those guys. So if knew he could get Jaden Springer on the low because the Celtics were looking to trade him all season and found a trade partner to do it with Houston, he knew he could get him on the buyout market. There's no way in how he's giving up Walker Kessler for that and 2 first-round picks. I know the first-round picks are very generous, but Danny Ainge knows that he can get a lot more for Walker Kessler if a team is very desperate, and I think there are more desperate teams than the Boston Celtics. So happy that didn't happen, but it would have been cool to see if Walker Kessler was on this Celtics team. But unfortunately, I don't think he's going to get moved from the Utah Jazz. Even if they get a player like Cooper Flag, they can slot him at the power forward. They could always move off Lauri Markkanen. They could always move off of other guys on this core that are a little bit older. I think Kessler is going to be a long-term staple for the Utah Jazz. They like him a lot. But with the Celtics, not only, like I mentioned, did they lose Jaden Springer, who they did trade, obviously, which a lot of fans were a little bit upset about. But, ladies and gentlemen, if we want to look at my Twitter profile, we can see that I made a video yesterday talking about how Lonnie Walker was not coming back into the NBA. And you want to know why I made that video? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was because Mark Stein tweeted out yesterday if I can get my thing pulled up, that Lonnie Walker will finish the season with Lithuania's BC Zalgiris, according to his agent. And this was reported at 11:17 a.m. I uploaded the video around like 1:15, right? 11:17 a.m. Let me know how not even 6 hours later he gets signed. How'd it go from not getting bought out and signed to sign the same day? I don't know, but I'm glad for Lonnie regardless. He deserved to be in the league before the season. But yes, the Celtics lose another player as Lonnie Walker, who was a player that they wanted to keep on this roster and wanted to develop with this team, has now signed with the 76ers, a Celtics rival. And once again, the Utah Jazz are taking Svi Mykhailiuk and Jaden Springer, the players that are on this Celtics team that are undervalued, I would say, and could be good long term, but they are taking them. And the 76ers are going, oh, any ex-Celtic that plays in the EuroLeague, we want that guy. They took Yabu from us when Yabu could have came to Boston in the free agency, and Yabu has been a beast for them so far this season that the Celtics wanted to trade for him, inquired for him, but the Sixers made some other moves to where I believe they want to keep Yabu locked up long term. And then we see here they went and picked up Lonnie Walker. Now, Lonnie Walker was obviously a preseason guy for the Celtics. He wasn't really going to stay long term, but the Celtics did look to trade Jaden Springer at the beginning of the season to get Lonnie Walker on this team, and that makes sense. Lonnie Walker provided some offensive output that they desperately needed, but then they went and traded away Jaden Springer and signed Torrey Craig. Now maybe Lonnie Walker didn't want to come back to Boston because of that, or maybe he wanted to do take the best deal available in a 2-year deal at the very minimum at least with the 76ers is nice for Lonnie Walker. And even though Lonnie Walker is a playoff guy, you know what I mean? A guy that's there to make an immediate impact. I think this is a very, very good signing for the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, obviously, the 76ers this season have seen their injuries with this Celtics team versus this year. Excuse me. And they've lost the Celtics team pretty decently in the rivalry over the last couple of seasons to where even Joel Embiid says it's not a rivalry because they always kick our ass, as we all know. But I do like this move because I think the Sixers are doing something smart. They're obviously this year going to be ruffled with injuries, not be a top tier team, not be in that conversation to compete. But I do think players like Lonnie Walker, Gershon Yabusele can help you if you get them signed to long term deals. Not only can it help with the development with guys like Jared McCain, Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, and Embiid if you want to still compete. But if you do want to take a little bit of a step back where maybe you move off of a Joel Embiid or a Paul George and invest into this young core with Tyrese Maxey and this, you're bringing in a guy like Lonnie Walker who can be a tradable asset to get you another young talent or future first in the future. I don't see Lonnie Walker finishing out his contract on the 76ers team unless the 76ers are a team that's pushing for the playoffs. But since he signed to a 2-year deal, I would suggest that if the Sixers do look to pivot in a direction, that Lonnie Walker would be a very, very, very sought out, low fringe playoff guy for any second apron or first apron team next season if the Sixers do decide to go a different route. And who knows? The Celtics could be reinterested in contacting about a guy in Lonnie Walker. But yes, the Celtics did not get Lonnie Walker. They got Torrey Craig, who has been absolutely perfect so far, and I think brings the Celtics with a lot they need. But unfortunately, losing Lonnie Walker, losing the Dancing Bear, they go to the 76ers, 2x Boston Celtics from the EuroLeague that played in the EuroLeague. And then the Jazz now take Jaden Springer and Svi Mykhailiuk, two guys from the championship roster, now on their squad. Now, Brissett is the only one that we have yet to mention that hasn't been able to find that home for the Boston Celtics or in any team so far. But keep an eye out on him as he's on I believe, a G League team, the Long Island Nets G League, and I believe they just brought up Killian Hayes. So potentially he could be a two-way guy or potentially a guy maybe for them in the future this season, depending on what moves they do. I got to get reintegrated into the buyout lot as over the last couple of days with the All-Star break, I'm not going to lie, I haven't really been paying attention, haven't really been focusing on much stuff around the NBA. Has been doing some other stuff, catching up on some other life stuff, but now with obviously the season getting kind of back into the swing of things with this second half of the year kind of coming underway, going live tonight, obviously, we'll have to wait and see. What's up, Crampy? How you doing? Saying, hope Lonnie balls out. He deserves it. That's what I'm saying. I 100% agree in my tweet that I did say. I said, glad for Lonnie regardless. He deserved to be in the league before the season, so I'm glad that he's actually finally be able to get brought back. And like we mentioned, Lonnie said here, got the call at 10 p.m., 2 hours before my clause ended. Still processing it all, but truly blessed, humbled, and excited for this next chapter, AGTG. So, let's see. And then, like I said, Danny now taking Svi and now Jaden. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But with this Boston Celtics team, we all know the second half of the season is coming up. So we discussed, obviously, Jaden Springer. We looked and discussed talking about Lonnie Walker, because those kind of been two ex-Celtics that have gotten signed. We talked about the game versus the Spurs that they played. So let's dive in and let's look at this schedule ahead of us, as there have been some Celtics topics that we need to just get in and discuss. Like I mentioned, this stream is going to be a little bit of a shorter one just due to the fact that there wasn't much uh, games to obviously break down and discuss. We obviously did see, before I get into the Celtics schedule, we did see J.D. Davidson playing the Rising Stars game. Now, unfortunately, his team did not make it to the All-Star game, but we did get to see him play, which was very exciting to see as a Celtics fan. And we also got to see Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown play in the All-Star game. Jayson Tatum was in contention in my eyes to be the MVP of the All-Star game, but it ultimately was given to Stephen Curry. Many could say that Jayson Tatum was robbed. I would not obviously argue with you, but it's obviously the All-Star game at this point. Not a lot of people are interested in the affair, and Tatum has already won an MVP. So in my eyes, it's a-okay for Steph Curry to win it. It's not that big of a deal. It's not worth, raging and getting mad over the fact that he didn't win the All-Star game MVP. But let's get into the Celtics schedule here, as not only are we going into the second half of the season, we're going to be looking at the standings here. The Celtics are only 5.5 games be out on the Cleveland Cavaliers, ladies and gentlemen. Only 5.5 games, and retrospectively, 2.5 above the Knicks, which gives them a lot of leeway. I don't see the Celtics falling out of this top three, and necessarily I don't see them falling out of two. I see them staying in two or potentially moving up to one, depending on how Cleveland shakes up in this second half. But let's look at the Celtics here over these next couple games as we prepare for our stream next week. Now, like I mentioned, next week on Wednesday will be live, so we won't be breaking down this game, giving a prediction, as that will be next week. But we got 3 games before the start of next stream. The Sixers, which is on tomorrow, the Knicks, where they are playing the Celtics, and the Raptors on the road. Now, previously last week, we talked about the Celtics-Knicks game where the Celtics absolutely dogged the Knicks in MSG. I expect the Knicks to kind of fight back and be a good fight for the Celtics in this game, but coming off of the All-Star game, maybe they could be a little bit rusty and the Celtics could get the best of them. The Raptors, obviously, we'll have to see. I don't really know about Brandon Ingram. I don't know if he'll be back or if he's healthier or whatnot, but he just signed his extension. So the new look Raptors, regardless if Brandon Ingram is playing or on the bench, will be taking on the Celtics. If he's playing, I think it'll be a good game. If not, I think the Celtics will get the best of them here. And versus the Sixers, we'll obviously get into a little bit. I'm going to go with a 3-0 prediction for the Celtics this week. I want to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I agree with you, Krampus. He definitely did get snubbed. But let's get into the talk about the Sixers game in general, because that's the big game that's going on tomorrow. We'll give you a little bit of a preview. I know a lot of Celtics fans themselves were very, very curious about this Celtics team going into tomorrow, because obviously the last time we played the Sixers, the Celtics were down 64-90, came back to win 118-110, the biggest comeback this season. But with the Boston Celtics, we have seen one player on the injury report, and that is Xavier Tillman, as he is out with some left knee inflammation. Now, the knee has been an issue this whole season over the last couple weeks, and it's okay. That's why he hasn't been really playing that much, and it's probably acting up again, which is totally fine for Xavier Tillman here. But versus tomorrow, there's one player that has been on here over the last couple of games that is not, and that is Mr. Jrue Holiday. And Jrue Holiday will be playing in this Celtics game after he's been out the last, I believe, since the last 3 games, 4 games, with the Mavericks game, I think, being oh no, it was the Cavs game that was his last. So yeah, the last 4 games, Jrue Holiday has been out with this shoulder injury, and Celtics most likely just resting Jrue, giving him some extra time leading into the All-Star game, and now he is going to be back and hopefully better than ever. Hoping to see a nice Jrue Holiday impact game versus the 76ers squad. Now, for the 76ers injury report, I do not know who's on it. I will check real quick before we sign off. 70s. Oh, nope. Hit the wrong button. What's up, Suns Digest? When you're typing in, you got your scenes as numbers. That's what happens, man. They don't seem to have their injury report out yet. So maybe it's not out yet. I don't know. Let me check ESPN. Get one last check. Like I said, Crampy saying, I think we say we come out on a win streak, 7 to 10 wins. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that the Celtics can get on a nice roll here. Like I said, not that it's like needed, because we have it basically locked up, and I've been saying this since the beginning of the season. I think health is the Celtics' biggest scare going into the playoffs. So as long as they can stay healthy, I'm fully confident. So for tomorrow, the Sixers obviously have no Jared McCain out for the season, no Justin Edwards, Kyle Lowry, or Eric Gordon. They're all listed as out, but everybody else should be good to go. So Embiid will be there with Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, Jayson Tatum, Jrue Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porziņģis, the whole lot will be ready to go versus the 76ers. I'm excited for the game. It's been kind of tough these last couple, it's been what, a week now at this point without Celtics basketball, besides like All-Star game stuff, but a week, which is just tough. It's good for the players. They get their little break. Obviously, a little bit good for me, too. I get a little bit of a mental break, get a little bit of a rest, but it is tough not being able to watch basketball. I desperately want to be able to see the game. And I'm just waiting for the Celtics to get back on our TV screens to be very happy again. But I want to say thank you to everyone that tuned into the stream. I'm sorry that this one, like I said, a little bit slow, a little bit boring. There's not really much to talk about right now. Just like unless you want to talk about Springer and Lonnie Walker, which I dove into a little bit here, obviously. But like I said, Celtics second half of the season coming up. Three things that I'm looking for before I sign off. I'm looking to stay healthy. That's the main thing. Two, I'm looking to stay cohesive on the defensive side as a unit. As we've seen over the last couple games, they've been actually to get that really back. And I'm very, very excited to see. Why is Jaden Springer in your thumbnail? I'm curious. Well, that is because Jaden Springer has signed with the Utah Jazz, my guy. Jaden Springer is signed with the Utah Jazz. Free agent guard Jaden Springer has agreed to a 10-day contract with the Utah Jazz, according to Shams Charania. He has signed that today, so he will be playing with Utah for 10 days, 10 games, see how he plays. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier on the VOD form, he's going to be going back to, a little bit of a defensive style, and they don't really have a lot of defensive point guards in Utah. Got guys like Colin Sexton, Keontae George, Isaiah Collier, mainly offensive creators, shot creators, scorers. So I do believe a player like Jaden Springer will be able to succeed in that rotation and will be able to be a solid guy. I think he's gonna earn that 1 year for sure. Cramps, I think so. What's up, Jeff? How we doing? How we doing? Sorry, I'm about to sign off, but just wanted to let you guys know. Like I said, sorry the stream was a little bit shorter, a little bit boring this week. Like I said, there wasn't much content or games or anything like that, but with the Celtics taking on the 76ers, Knicks, and Raptors over this next couple lot, we will have stuff coming for you guys over the next couple days. Saturday, I am busy, but I will try to get something out at least Saturday or Sunday on the channel. One of those days I'll try to get something out, but Saturday throughout the day I'm a little bit busy, so I don't know how much I can get out. But I want to say shout out to everyone that came through the stream. We had around 20, 25 people for a majority of it. So thank you guys so much for hanging out and, just chilling and honestly listening to me chat about the Celtics. Like I said, not really much to say more. I'm kind of repeating myself at this point, but thank you once again for coming out. I really do appreciate y'all, and I'll catch you guys in the next stream, next video. If you guys do enjoy the content, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We are almost at 6,200, which has been absolutely crazy. We've been kind of flying up the ranks over the last couple of days, right? Let me look. Yeah, 6144. So we're almost at 6,200. We hit 6,000 just a couple weeks ago, month ago maybe. So thank you guys so much once again for showing all your support, for tuning into the channel. Like I said, if you want to get up to date on everything Boston Celtics related about this team, news, injury updates, post game videos, weekly live streams to talk about the team, anything like that, make sure to hit the like, make sure to hit the subscribe button, make sure to share the content as well. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your day and go Boston Celtics.